What's up, everybody? TJ here. Real quick before we get started with the episode, I'm testing out a new feature called Fan Mail, which is where you can actually text me from the episode that you're listening to. So as you're listening to this, go over to the episode description, and right there at the beginning, you're going to see some text that says, send me a text message. Go ahead, click that. Let me know what you think about the podcast so far. Let me know of any questions, concerns, anything you might have. I love to hear from you. So go ahead, hit that up. I'm excited to read your text, and let's get started with the episode.
And what sucks, human nature speaking, is you will always think it's you. You'll always think, well, there's something inherently about me that this person doesn't like, when the more accurate assumption or the more accurate statement is probably there's something that this person doesn't like in themselves or about themselves.
Welcome to the Keep the Promise podcast, where we help build resilient and well-rounded firefighters.
It's a very, one of the first questions people usually ask me when they find out prior experience, which I don't even like saying, 'cause I don't think, 4 or 5 years is all that much experience, but they're like, what do you like it here? What's different? And I'm like, it feels different. It was a tough crowd out there. It's a tough crowd. Very, very good old boys club. I didn't go in with, coming into this department, having already been through a 2-year probationary period. Like, I kind of knew what I was doing, but showing up to that probation, I didn't know what I was doing. I come from a culture in the military where you don't speak unless you're spoken to. Nobody ever said hey, go in and introduce yourself to everyone. So I didn't do that.
Oh.
Nobody told me to do that.
Yeah.
So that translated, I'm sure, into like, oh, that's check.
Yeah, she's a bitch.
Biatch. But that's just how again, in the military, to me, and everyone's military experience is different, but we were a very, you don't talk to people unless they talk to you, especially people in charge of you. So I don't know. It was tough to navigate. It was a tough area with a tough crowd to get acclimated to, and nobody really spoke to me for a year on a fire ground.
What?
Which was, and I later asked them about it, and they were like, "Yeah, we just had to make sure you were going to stick around." I was like, "That's safe, guys. Cool, thanks."
That is.
But not my shift. My shift was great.
Right.
My medic is still one of my favorite people around. So I love her. And I had a great lieutenant, great captain, great specialist, all of it. Great. Oh my God, my driver, forget it. Legend. But it was a good time out there.
That leads me to...
Why did you leave?
Well, not quite. No. Because a woman in the military,
mm-hmm.
in one of the toughest branches, arguably.
Mm-hmm.
And then going into the fire service, also a place that can be very...
Misogynistic?
Yeah, I was going to say sexist, but I like that word way better. Can you tell me about that? Like I'm sure there were conflicts. I'm sure there were like bumps on the road. How was it? How was that process? I think it's important to highlight that because we have a lot of female firefighters.
Yeah.
And we as men don't experience 90% of the stuff that they go through.
Right.
Because you don't introduce yourself, now you're a bitch. It doesn't matter that you're good on the fire ground. Suddenly that is what counts.
Yeah.
We don't have that extra stigma, that extra expectation. If I don't talk, the amount of times that I got told as a rookie, shut the fuck up and speak when spoken to, complete polar opposites of what you experience of like, why aren't you talking to people? And I've talked to other female firefighters who do the same thing. Oh, she doesn't talk to people. Oh, she doesn't say hello. She's not like super nice to us. Therefore, she must be a bitch. Meanwhile, she could be Tommy Gavin in the flesh, eating smoke, pulling babies one by one. And that's the stigma.
Totally not who I am, by the way.
No, not Tommy Gavin.
It's always tough for me personally to navigate that question. And I think
that's why I asked it.
I think the answer is almost so because it's all I know. I don't want to sound like, oh, well, so
just
hard for me. Because it's all I've experienced, it's normal to me. So when people are like, oh, how is it being a girl or a woman? I'm sorry. I'm going to say girl because that's just, how is it being a girl in the military? And I'm like, I don't know. I've only ever been a girl in the military. So I can't tell you what it's like to be a girl in the military versus being a boy in the military because I only saw what it was like to be a girl. So I can't tell you if my experience was different from you until I hear about your experience. Does that make sense? So being a girl in a fire department, I can only tell you what it was like for me because I don't know that that's different from anyone else. But then when you hit, my clue that there was a difference, and I can distinctly see it. And remember, we had a 2-box in Pikesville, dryer fire, got out of control. It was us, 18 and 2. And there was another kid from my academy who was at 18 on my shift. So he was there on this fire. I want to say out there, like first, second, and third engine, it's butts to nuts because we're all right on top of each other. So I can't remember. I think we were second. I think my engine was second and he was first. And I just remember watching all of them like shake his hand, pat him on the back, and they're like joking around with him. And I'm over here just sitting on the tailboard of the engine, nobody talking to me. And I was like, oh, it's different. And again, interestingly enough, he ended up being a really big shitbag and got fired. But he did. I always go back to that in my head. I'm like, y'all loved him so much, and he was a piece of shit. You do get treated differently, I guess, because like I said, I can't speak to your experience, but I do know that there was a certain group of people that did treat me very differently, and I, for the longest time, was like, these guys, no, me, I'm a strong, independent woman, and I would make all these excuses like, oh, these guys they've put their entire masculine identity into this job, and then a girl comes in and does it. And and that's why there's disconnect between genders and roles, and I'm just as capable, and they should know that I'm just as capable because I got the job and I did it here. But I can't really tell you definitively that any of the things that I think about that are true. I can't tell you definitively, yes, it's because I'm a girl. Yes, it's because I have a resting bitch face and everyone thinks I'm mean. I do. It's terrible. I get it from my dad. I can't tell you any of those things. I can't tell you why they treat me this way. And for a long time in the beginning, I was like, well, maybe I'm just not good at this job. Which sucks because that's how you end up feeling. Like that's how this gender role disconnection ends up affecting women. I think it ends up making us think, oh, we must not be good at this job. We must not be doing a good job. We must not be living up to expectation. We must not be doing X, Y, and Z. And that could be completely untrue. It's just a predisposed decision that somebody made a long time ago that, here's another one. What are we going to have to deal with today? So, I feel like that was a very long tangent and I forgot where we came from other than you asking me what it was like as a girl.
The last where the tangent started going off is when you were talking about these dudes putting their whole masculine identity into it, and you feel that the disconnect comes from now the women might start feeling that they are just not good at the job.
Right. I think I do think that plays into it. But again, you get I'm about to get a whole bunch of girls mad at me. It's not all men, right? It's not everyone's going to treat you like that. So I don't know. It's interesting to navigate, but if you're confident in your abilities and you do have a close enough group of people that you can not compare yourself to, but hold yourself accountable to, and they can reassure you that you are doing a good job, and it's not you, it's whatever. It's, you know what? It just sucks.
But like the vibe that I'm getting from you is very much, okay, these people are going to have this opinion.
Right.
I know what I can do. I know what I bring to the table. And those people whose opinion I value say that I'm bringing value to the table. So why am I going to care about these other folks?
Because you always care about the other folks, right? That's, you could have 10 people telling you good things and one person criticizing you, and what are you going to care about?
Oh, it's
what
that
are you
little
focus?
voice you're going to focus on. Yeah.
And you can stand and shout in their faces, no, you're wrong. But as a person who doesn't really believe that debating ever works, all that does is make them dig their heels in. It's, you know, you're not going to change somebody's initial impression of you. You can't. You can make the choice to lean into it, which I think is what a lot of people do, right? Hey, you don't like me? Cool, I don't like you. And that's now how that relationship is going to go from here on out, right? Someone 20 years from now, why don't you like them? I don't know. They didn't like me. You don't even remember. So you can either lean into that and buck it, or you can do the less comfortable, take the less comfortable path and be like, all right, well, I'm going to keep at you until I either break you, or it just becomes very evident that we're never going to get past whatever this notion is you have of me. So unfortunately, and I don't think that's a gender thing. I think all people do that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't like somebody, it's going to be either fuck you or
let me try to change your mind.
Which sure could be pointless, but you'd actually be surprised.
I tried that a couple times. It failed.
Yeah. I mean,
10 years on, there will be people who hate me until I'm dead, pretty much. And
right.
There comes a point that's like, hey,
it's
good luck to you, bro.
And what sucks, human nature speaking, is you will always think it's you. You'll always think, well, there's something inherently about me that this person doesn't like, when the more accurate assumption or the more accurate statement is probably there's something that this person doesn't like in themselves or about themselves that I'm reflecting, whatever. You can psychoanalyze it. It's 20 ways past Sunday. So it's your choice to internalize it or next.
What's up, my fellow firefighters and dedicated listeners of the Keep the Promise podcast? I have an extremely exciting announcement that I could not wait to share with you, so I hope you're ready. Starting today, for a limited time only, I'm offering you an incredible opportunity to join our exclusive Patreon community with a 1-week free trial. That's right, an entire week to experience the amazing benefits, resources, and connections that await you inside of our firefighter family. But this offer is more than just a trial. It's an invitation to step into a world where support, growth, and inspiration thrive. It's a chance to embrace a community that understands your dedications, your struggles, and the profound impact that you strive to make every single day. Imagine a place where you're surrounded by like-minded individuals who share your passion for service, who understand the demands and joys of the fire service, and also who stand shoulder to shoulder with you as you keep the promise that you made to your community. It's not about the benefits that you'll receive either. It's about the connections that you're going to forge, the friendships that you're going to nurture, and the support that you'll find when the weight of the world feels heavy on your shoulders. Look, as firefighters, we're not just bound by a profession. We're united by a deeper purpose, a calling to protect, to save lives, and to make a difference. And together, we can achieve so much more. During this 1-week free trial, you'll have access to exclusive bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes insights, and a community that will rally around you, providing you encouragement, advice, and all the motivation that you need to become the best version of yourself, both on and off the job. So, my fellow firefighter, I invite you to take that leap, to join us in this extraordinary journey. Let us be the foundation that supports you, empowers you, and helps you overcome any obstacles that come your way. Head over to our Patreon page today at joinkeepthepromise.com. Again, joinkeepthepromise.com and claim your 1-week free trial. Do not miss out on this opportunity to experience the strength of our community, the wisdom of our guests, and most importantly, the inspiration that awaits you. Together, we will keep the promise we made to our community, to ourselves, and to each other. I'll see you on the other side, my friend. Next question, please. Remember how well that served you the first time?
Nothing next.
All right, so perfect transition point.
Oh.
Let's talk about you leaving Baltimore County.
You'd think by now I'd have it memorized. August 13th, I think, 2021 is when the evident fall of Kabul began. And people are like, how did you get involved? It's at this point, it's so hard to like put a finger on how it started and how I got involved, just because it was so murky. I think it happened. All of these people were scrambling. Excuse me. To it all started with interpreters, right? We were at war with Afghanistan for so long. All of these specialized military groups used native interpreters, and then there was this feeling of abandonment. Like, you helped us, now you're being targeted because they know you helped us, and now you're in danger. So how do we help? A friend of mine asked if I happened to know anybody who was still there, who could help. And I very casually reached out to a person I knew who was a member of the Royal Marines, and said, "Hey, I know you guys have a group of people there. Are you guys doing anything with this? Are you working on getting people out? Are you involved with it at all?" And they were like, "Yeah, loosely, like, here's what we can tell you. Here's a way this might work. Send their name to this person, whatever." And that snowballed into a former colonel that I know, who messaged me, and he was like, "Hey, I'm collecting names and I'm submitting them to the Air Force generals who are, loading up the planes and flying them out. If there are people that that have citizenship, green cards, blue passports, anything of that nature, SIVs, immigration's
it's a mess.
Veritable shit show.
Yeah.
So any of these things that might give them ties to the U.S., like, give me their names, and their contact. It was like the world's worst spreadsheet, and we'll work on getting them out. Well, then that turned into another person I know who I used to work with was like, "Hey, we're actually going over there. We've set up this system, this network where we are essentially," they rented cars and they were driving to houses and picking them up and taking them to HKIA, which is the big airport in Kabul. So that was kind of the next step. Now I had contact with about 7 cabs that were driving around. So I would give them names, addresses. They'd show up at these people's houses. They'd verify, let me see your ID. Let me see your passport. Okay, cool. They'd get in the car and we just drive them to HKIA. Drop them off. They'd do the rest. They get through the lines. They get on a plane, and they'd fly them out. Well, then it turned into buses. Started getting a hold of buses, and we would park the buses in a relatively safe space, then use the rental cars to bring the people to the buses, or tell the people, "Hey, this is where the bus is. Get on the bus." We'd have a bus manifest. You check the names off. The bus would then drive to HKIA and get through the gates. When Kabul finally fell, when the Marine element left, things got trickier, because we no longer had control of that airport. So we had to find another means of evacuation. During this time, we're also, it's wild. People are like, how? I was like, I don't even know. I managed to find people that could get safe houses. So if people were in hiding, we were able to get them safe houses. We were able to deliver them food, things like that. But once Kaya was controlled by the Taliban and was no longer an option, the next plan of attack was, okay, we're going to bus people up to Mazar-e-Sharif, which is north about 4 hours, if I remember correctly. So then that was what we were doing. We were able to, and I say there was about 5 core people that none of the things that I was able to do I would have been able to done without any of these people. The guy that would get the buses for me. And then there's the people that would pay the $750,000 for the plane. The people who were able to verify the manifests that would get on the plane, and then the people who were in contact with the UAE royal family that allowed these planes to land, which is essentially what happened. So we were busing people. We'd pick them up in Kabul. They'd have to find their way to the bus. We'd have like six or seven buses that we would then drive the 6 hours, 4 hours, however long it was, up to Mazar-e-Sharif, where we were able to secure a hotel. So we'd essentially rent out this whole hotel. All the families would go there for the night. We'd have food delivered overnight. In the morning, they'd get back on the buses. We'd bus them to the airport. My specific role was coordination. So I would be given the list of people's names that were going to be flying out. I would make sure the correct people got on the correct buses. I would make sure that the food got delivered, that they got back on the buses. And then when it was time for them to get on the plane, this is the best part of this whole thing. I would have to sit, and the time change, this would end up being like 3:00 in the morning, our time. So I'd have to sit on the computer on a live call with the gentleman in the airport that was checking all of these passengers in. And we'd have to go through it. We'd have about 340 people per plane. We did this for about 11 planes, where he'd be like, okay, this person's here. This isn't spelled right, or they're not here. What am I supposed to do? And I'd either have to adjust the manifest, resubmit it, resend it, or like beg, borrow, plead, and like just they're good. I messed up. Something happened. Let them on. And we'd have to go name by name by name by name by name. And then once they got in the air, they'd land in the UAE. And then that was a whole other group of people's responsibility. So that was my role. It was a very long-winded explanation. I did the movement. So the plan was always, once that was done, I was going to go back to Baltimore. I had actually submitted for a leave of absence, and it got denied. So I was like, well, I'm going to resign then, because there you have 2 years. You can resign and come back without having to redo a bunch of shit. So the plan was do that for about a year. When after a year, when my capabilities, my scope of practice, if you will, was exhausted and it turned into an immigration issue, I was like, well, I'm not an immigration lawyer. Immigration looks terrible. I don't want anything to do with it. That's not what I can do. So I'm good. I got people out. We're done getting people out.
For a year.
Mm-hmm.
Ballpark, how many people total do you think you helped out?
Ballpark 340 a plane, 11 planes.
Oh.
So, whatever that math is. But again, there's so many people involved in that. Like, I didn't hand pick all of those people and put them on the plane. I will say you can't see my air quotes, I was paid for my services by seats on planes. So I would get 10 seats And then I had no one there. There I had one family that I was vested in, and I got them out. And that's why I moved into my childhood home that Dave helped me get ready. But outside of that, like the people that you become close with, I'll be like, hey, I know you have these people you've been trying to get out. I have 10 seats on this plane. Like, give them to me. Let's go. Or like your emergency. I can distinctly remember my friend Sophia, who I met through all of this, who I still speak to. She was like, this kid just watched his whole family get blown up. He's 19 years old. He has no idea what he's doing. And this was like as the buses were leaving. I was like, how far away from the buses is he? She's like, he's 40 minutes. I wired him $200. I told him to get in a cab, take the cab up to Mazar Sharif. I'll put him on the manifest. Like things like that. That was my niche. But I'm not making the manifests were controlled by the groups of interest. Everybody hears about Pineapple Express and SOA, and I can't even remember all the groups of people that are putting the manifests together. I just got the manifests and facilitated the planes, and dealt with the airline. I made so much money off of this one. It's terrible. I dealt with the airline and made sure that the plane reservation was there and the tail numbers and all of this and that. But like I said, once all of that was over, that's it. I don't know how to process an SIV. I don't know, like immigration law, the little that I learned from this whole process, like fucking kill me. I know they make it difficult on purpose, but
Dude,
I'm sure you have
15 years in the country before I got my citizenship.
Right.
15.
It's wild. So, yeah. So
I did the quick math. Over 3,700 people.
Okay. That's cool.
That is beyond cool. Can you tell me about this family that you were vested in? Or is
yeah. I still talk to him.
Oh, yeah?
There are a couple of, this is going to sound terrible, like a couple of people that I'm actually very, very low key proud of getting out. They are one of them. There was this family with these 3 kids, these school age kids that go to school in California. Like we got them back. I got to do a video chat. Like that was cool. I got to do a video chat with their class, and like the principal was who brought me their names and was like, what do I do? Like stuff like that. And then this girl, Sufra, who's 21 years old, got over here. I went and picked her up from the camp, and like she came and stayed with me for a week, and now she's in a program and she's going to Georgetown actually. But the family, and this was the wild thing about that time and why it was so stressful. Your name's getting handed out by people that are there. Hey, this person helped me, call them. So I'm just walking around at home and I get this random call from this guy, and he's a mess. He's in Texas. He's a full citizen. His wife, who is 8 months pregnant, and his 2-year-old son is there. They're there. I mean, he's all with his brother and his mother and the rest of his family, but he's hysterical and he's trying to figure out how to get them out. And I was like, well, like, what's the deal? And in the beginning, I was like, I don't think I can help them. She didn't even have a green card. Her connections to citizenship is him. He has a blue passport. So their son was born before he got citizenship, so it didn't transmit to him, but the son she was pregnant with is technically an American citizen. So it's all very it's all very convoluted. Yeah. So essentially she doesn't have a whole lot paperwork wise. She doesn't speak English. So that was super fun. But I tried 3 times to get her out. One of the worst times, she ended up sitting on a bus for 18 hours outside of the gate of HKIA the day that they decided they weren't going to let any more buses in. So she ended up going home. The husband flew back into Afghanistan, went home, And he called me. He's like, I'm here. Get us all out. And I was like, cool. You made it harder, right? But eventually, I was able to convince them to get on a bus, go up to Mazar-e Sharif, get on a plane. They got out. When they flew into the camp in New Jersey, that's where things got really difficult, because they flew all these people here, and then like, now what? What are we going to do with them? He had sold his apartment and all of his stuff so that he could go back and get them. So I was like, well, I have this house that's sitting here in Aberdeen, doing nothing. Like, let me roll up there and see how bad it is, and see if it can, because if I could bring them out of the camp and have them somewhere for them to go, then they'd be released. So I put out what ended up being a wide net on the social networks. I was like, hey, if anybody has furniture or anything, and man, it was like floodgates. People were dropping stuff off, driving stuff to the house. The house is a mess, so I asked if people could come help. Dave Smith, and actually Dave Angelo as well. Both Daves at some point during the process like came and helped me clean it up, fixed lighting fixtures, whatever needed doing. And I went and picked them up from the camp in New Jersey and drove them back here. And he didn't tell his wife. His name was Zaki. Her name was Wajma. Didn't tell her that. She just thought they were going to come out for a day and come meet my family. We took them to their house. I handed her a key. I was like, you do not have to go back there. So they stayed for a little while. He ended up he is a CDL, he does truck driving. They moved out to Utah, and he's got a couple trucks out there. I can text her now. She's like, her English is pretty good. The babies are good. All during this whole time, she had the baby. So by the time I got them out, now they have a newborn and a 2-year-old. So it was very cool. I've told her I wish she would write her story down. I feel like her story is a very interesting story to tell. But yeah, that was the family that I was invested in. And if I got no one out other than them, I'm glad I got them out. So, but to tie that all back in, yeah, after a year, I planned on going back to Baltimore. But it just so happened that this recruit class opened up at the same time. So I said,
during the time that you were doing this, did you catch any backlash from Baltimore County people for walking away?
Nope. One, there's the mentality like, oh, there's so many people, and there's so many people waiting for that position that, you're not abandoning anything. But they all knew, because for a couple, maybe 6 weeks, I was trying to do both at the same time, and it was a mess. It was very, very stressful. So everyone on my shift knew, and when I made the decision, which, I think one of the questions you asked, like, were you ever unsure? I'm still unsure. Like, I remember distinctly driving away my last day crying. Like, what am I doing? Turning my gear. And I was like, this was not a good idea. Like, this is not what I'm leaving, something that's so stable. And so, I'm used to, and I'm essentially jumping into nothingness and trying to figure out, yet again, navigate some new task. But no, I no backlash. Everyone was really supportive. There were a lot of people from the department that came and helped clean up the house, which was really cool to see. Everyone thought, if it's important enough, like you said, if it's important enough to walk away from a stable career, you probably think it's very important. So now everyone seemed really, and even the chief on my last day, because everyone kind of knew the intention was to go back. My chief on the last day was like, well, just, make sure you keep your stuff up to date, and we'll see you when you get back. So
I love that.
I love that because I think most of us have heard the conversations of people who, like, about people who leave, about people who separate from the department. And I mean, one of my classmates left after 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best guys that we ever got the honor to ride fire trucks with. And people still called him a shitbag and a coward and a quitter for leaving the department. And I've asked a couple people, Nick, who left Harrisburg to go to Upper Darby. And I'm very amazed that I'm not getting the answers that I would expect to get.
Yeah.
And that tells me that the culture is shifting because, again, the conversations that I've heard are, oh, this person left, he's a piece of shit, or, oh, she just couldn't hack it. Most of the answers I'm getting are like, no, people understood.
Yeah.
Like in Nick's case, people understood that it was for his family's sake.
Yeah.
Your department, everybody in the fire service jumped in to help out that cause.
Right.
And while it is an unexpected answer, it gives me so much hope for the fire service culture.
Yeah.
Because that tells me we are shifting that mindset of making our whole identity the fire service.
Yeah.
And realizing, no, our people have amazing talents. And we, as their fire service family, we owe them to celebrate and to support those talents and to help them achieve those things. So I love hearing that everybody jumped in. I'm not surprised that both Daves jumped in, to be 100% honest, because that's the kind of people that they are.
Yeah, it was very cool. And I can only tell you from what maybe there were people but I was gone by then. Maybe there were people that were shit talking, but the people that I kept in my circle knew why and didn't really have anything terrible to say about it. So I was lucky. But yeah,
that's a good circle.
It's a good circle. And I also think I was planning on coming back. And then
drum roll. Then you were ready for question number 1. Tell us more about Howard County. Did they ask you that question in the interview?
What do you know about Howard County? Everything.
I know where.
Right.
She's like, what?
Yeah, I think at the precipice of it, I didn't, again, because I make snap judgments, I didn't in my head play out all of the steps. I was just like, yeah, I'll just go back to another academy.
Were you on the couch when you made this decision?
Probably. And so when I did get, I was so like I said, I tried to get in here first.
Mm-hmm.
I live here. My kids go to school here. I'm 6 minutes from my station. Like, this is my community. I loved the idea of serving the community that I live in. The people that I see all the time. So I really thought it was a good opportunity to, at the young, spry age of 43, go through a 7-month academy and get back and start all over from the beginning. I think that I suppressed, because I think if I had let that bubble up, I would have been a little bit more wishy-washy. So I'm glad I didn't. I'm very glad I didn't. Yeah.
What was going through your mind?
When?
When you decided, I'm going to go through, and because that marks number 3 that we know of any sort of structured training program that you've gone through in your life. Most people say they would never do a fire academy, and you're like, academy number 2, and I was in the Marine Corps, so bring it.
I think, again, I fell back on the I've done it before. I know what I'm walking into. I thought I did, at least. This one was different. This one's
really
different than Baltimore, for sure. I know how to live in that world. I know how to walk that path somewhat. I tripped and stumbled enough, but So it wasn't daunting to me.
Hey everyone, it's TJ here from Keep the Promise. As you know, this podcast is all about helping firefighters become more resilient and well-rounded so that they can be a force for good within their fire department and their community. But today I want to talk to you about something that's just as important, and that is supporting firefighters who are going through tough times. When one of our fellow firefighters is off work because they have to go to the Center for Excellence, they have to go to rehab, they have mental health issues, or they have other health issues, it really takes away their support system and it wreaks havoc on their finances and their family's finances. And many times, these brothers and sisters are left to struggle alone, away from their support system and the people who love them without the resources they need to recover. That's why I'm setting a bold new goal. And that is to reach 150 total patrons on Patreon so that we can start a fund to help firefighters and their families during these challenging times. And I need your help to make it happen. With your support on Patreon, we'll be able to provide financial assistance to firefighter families who are battling things like addiction, depression, and cancer. We're going to help alleviate the financial strain that can come with being away from the fire department so that our brothers and sisters can focus on healing and recovering. Now, reaching 150 total patrons is a big goal, but I believe that we can do it together. And when we do, we'll be able to make a real difference in the lives of those who serve and protect alongside us. So, if you're not already a patron, I invite you to join us today. Head over to joinkeepthepromise.com and sign up today. Again, that is joinkeepthepromise.com. And if you already are a patron, thank you so much for your support. You'll be receiving some exclusive rewards and perks as a way of saying thanks. Together, let's show our fellow firefighters that we've got their back just like they always have ours. Thank you for listening. Let's get started with the episode.